knowledge of the personnel in the organization heading into his head coaching position here?
Well, I think, again, he's got intimate knowledge of a lot of different things, certainly from the relationship standpoint with the players. I was around when he, made a couple of phone calls to some of the captains and Helly, and, when just talking with them, they were already talking about season. They were already talking about next year. They were already talking about things that, there wasn't that get to know you kind of conversation. It was like, damn right, let's get going, so I think that's that exuberance or that, passion certainly came through when we talked to Arnie, over the course of the interview process. But again, it's really started for me back with the exit meetings and listening to some of the players talk about, the structure that was put in place, the expectations that were put in place, and the disappointment, as a group that they all felt that we want another shot at this.
Kevin, with the coaching scenario now looked after, how much of a priority does it become for whatever retention type players are on your radar?
Yeah, so we've had some good conversations with some of the the agents of the potential UFAs, and a lot of them wanted to wait and see where we went with that decision with the coaching hire. So I think that's an important step, and certainly for players to want to make commitments to organizations, they want to know who they're going to be playing for, what type of person, what type of player that person likes, and how they're going to be utilized. So that's an ongoing process all the time. Started right after the season ended and exits, but for me now, Arnie can turn his attention to trying to fill out a staff. We'll certainly work together in some collaboration there, but he's going to be the kind of the lead driver in that category, but we'll certainly be participants, and we can turn back to the player side. We had amateur meetings all last week, so that's a process in and of itself that's very time consuming. We start pro meetings on Wednesday. We've got the combines the following week, and lo and behold, before you know it, we're going to be at the draft. So the summer certainly marches on very, very quickly.
Is it too simplistic to say that there are players who excel in the regular season and then there are those players who excel in the playoffs, and there's only a handful of them that do that in both venues?
Well, I think that, again, if you look at the people over the course of time, is you have to look at, what do they learn? What steps do they take, whether it's individually, whether it's personally, for players, they're constantly trying to learn. For coaches, they're constantly trying to learn. Management, you're constantly trying to learn. You're asking internal questions, you're asking external questions. But from a player standpoint, there's always development. There's always some aspect of the game that they need to develop. If they were perfect players, you'd see superstars across the board, and every individual player is going to be have to be treated differently and have to be shown different things. And I think again, that goes back to relationships and goes back to understanding what do you need to do to get the best out of this person, because it might be different for you, it might be different for you, and it might be different for you. So I think that's where coaches really excel, and the ones that can build relationships, the ones that are obviously strong in X's and O's and those kind of things, but it's the communication side of it. It's being able to you're a teacher. It's not about teaching, it's about helping that person learn and helping that person get over the hump. That's the essence of coaching. Yeah, this time it was. Yeah, Scott was obviously, here, and logistics are, something that, in the period of time where, coaches are being, hired, you try to, get in as quickly as you can as well. But again, there was lots of other conversations that went on, with other people around the league, with other coaches around the league, just talking to them about playing against our team and playing against, our team when Bones went down. So there was a lot of those kind of private, personal conversations that I had, and everyone kept coming back to me saying, "Why haven't you just hired him?" And I was like, "Well, again, we're going to go through our process here, but the reality of the situation is he's earned this job."
One of the things that maybe is more intense in Winnipeg than some other places is kind of guys like you and Scott, the role of an ambassador almost, right, when you speak. And your team went through some tough things this year, right? There was, a tragedy that affected many of your players. There was illnesses and things like that. How much did you learn about Scott's ability to handle that aspect of the job this year?
Well, some of the hardest conversations and some of the hardest situations you ever had to, deal with when, we were in Montreal and we found out about, the unfortunate passing of former teammates of a bunch of our players. And those are things that, you deal with as a family. And, it goes back to when Judy got sick and Scott had to step in. I think you really get the measure of how that person can handle things, during the toughest times. And, he walked into that dressing room and he said, obviously very, very emotionally, hurt and worried about obviously the health of Judy, but, found a way to speak to every player and just say, it's going to be okay, and we're in this together. And whether it's 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, the rest of the year, we're going to do this job and we're going to do it right. And, again, those are the kind of things that you don't learn in an interview. Those are the kind of things that you, can't, just assume. When you see it happen in reality, that gives you great confidence.
So, Kevin, it sounds like what you're most impressed by when Scott was filling in for Bones was like what he talked about, the relationships aspect of it, not so much the tactics and the X's and O's. Is that fair?
Well, yeah, for sure. I think that's fair. But, again, we talked about in Scott's interview, like, did you coach for Rick Bowness or did you coach for Scott Arniel? And he was coaching for Scott Arniel. Like, he had to make adjustments, he had to make changes. Obviously, the foundation that was put in place, as a staff and as an organization, and we talked about it a lot. Like, for us to be successful, we had to play a certain way, and that certain way was the foundation that they put in place. But the tweaks and the adjustments, those are things that you learn on the fly. What really impressed me, I think, in a lot of occasions, with Scott is just his calmness behind the bench. And, there wasn't that sense of this guy doesn't, kind of understand what's going on. Like, there was never a moment in time where you sat there and you said, why did he do that? Or why, geez, I wish he'd have done something different. Like, he really, handled that situation and shows that he's a head coach.
Kevin, with 2 new assistants being brought in, it seems like you have a nice mix then where you're going to have some stability and familiar voices and concepts, but also maybe some fresh ideas as well. How do you kind of view that scenario? Well,
I think, again, it's listening to Scott talk about, how he wanted things to unfold and the challenge that he wanted, his staff to put on him, the different ideas, the different thoughts. One thing I've found over my career is that when you start working with new people, you get challenged. They say something, you sit back and think about it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Sometimes it makes you even hardened in your beliefs, or sometimes it makes you, geez, never saw it that way, never thought about it that way. And again, I think the interview process that he's going to be going through is going to be something that'll be extremely beneficial for him. He's very strong in how he wants to see it unfold, but it's about the people too. The people have to fit, and the nice thing about it is his open-mindedness to looking at a lot of different people and opportunities and options.
It's safe to say that special teams would be a real focus. You look at teams that are having success now. I mean, you guys have the great goaltending. Yeah. Obviously, the defensive structure was there during the season. Special teams can really be a difference maker, right?
For sure. I think that, again, special teams are extremely important to this game. There's a lot of aspects of this game. I think that, if you look and see where guys are doing it, so yeah, I think again he's going to look at probably, and I don't want to speak for him, but obviously someone there's more defensively slanted and maybe someone that's more offensively slanted, and whether they're young or whether they're experienced, that's going to have a factor on maybe who the other guy is and different things like that. But it's not just about special teams; it's about 5-on-5 play. I think that if you are a team that can build off of 5-on-5 play, I think that it helps you in all aspects of the game. So we're not going to just focus solely on one aspect of it. I think you're looking for well-rounded people.
Kevin, with Scott having played all the different roles at the pro level, I mean, role player at different times, star player at different times, how important do you think that is in the relationship building aspect? Because he knows the value of whether you're 1 to 23, and then the importance of the call-ups also.
Well, I think it is very important because, every player, has a very important role in the success of a team. I think that, whether you're a player playing 8 or 9 minutes a night or a player playing 19 or 20 minutes a night, you have to understand what your role is and your importance on the team, being a success. So I think truly the people that have been through that and have been the hero or the fourth liner, the different things like that, that had that ability as a player, it can only be beneficial for them. But again, it comes down to the communication, it comes down to the clear expectation of roles, and I think that's where, Arnie is going to excel.
You talked about his hunger. I mean, you acquired him in '96 in Utah. I mean, what did you learn about the person then, and maybe how some of those qualities are still evident today?
Well, when you go, you have the fortune of meeting someone that, at that point in time, his career was much more distinguished than mine, and the respect, that he showed, to a young assistant coach, and at that point in time just showed, the professionalism that was there, but the desire to win, was something that you could tell at the moment. He had to make a tough choice. He had a full no trade and no move to leave Houston at that time, but he wanted to chase a championship, and it was important to him. And we talked a lot about those times and those days and what that experience of winning a championship means to a person. So it's certainly a long time ago, but those memories are obviously still fresh in a lot of people's minds.
5-on-5. One of the things, just watching playoffs, some of those teams are so good offensively at making a goalie move side to side, or there's lots of low to high or seam passes and things like that. Colorado had a lot of success at that, plus taking away Helly's eyes, right? They were winning a lot of battles in front. Is that something that you guys have a little bit of ground for? Like, are there more ideas kind of waiting for the Winnipeg Jets talent to take into?
That's kind of what I'm alluding to when you talk about, you can spend all your time talking about special teams and stuff, but you have to invent different ways to score goals in this league as well. That so much of the game is played 5-on-5, or so you have to look at those kind of things as well. You just look at the game-winning overtime goal yesterday, off the shaft of a stick, and it's all that net front. I think you see that again, become very accentuated, in the playoffs, and those are the type of things that I think teams have to grow with, and the games do evolve, they change. Like Arnie said, there's kind of 3 seasons within a season, and it's learning to kind of evolve with that as well. It's something that players have to do, to be successful. If you look at the first round versus, even the way it's played right now, like, the speed, the intensity, yeah, it's there, but, when you're in the first round, every team feels like they can win that cup, and you talk about it, we talk about it at management level, we talk about it at league level, like, it's hard to make the playoffs, and, when you're looking at those 16 teams that don't make it, you go, man, there's some really good teams there, but, again, we as an organization, first and foremost, and we can talk about everything that's happened in the past, good and bad. We have to have a mindset to come into training camp that we have to earn everything that we get again. We've got to get back, to playing the kind of hockey that we need to play, and that's got to start in training camp.
Is that a personnel thing then too from your side? Like, do you have to look for guys that are willing to go to the front of the net and willing to compete as hard as some of these teams are right now?
Well, I think that, there's, it's part and parcel, that, but also I think, it evolves too. I think players, want that. You talk about how am I going to get 10 to 15% better, and it's about getting players to understand that this could be your way of getting it. Whether it's tips in front of the net, whether it's just instead of going, moving off to the side, stopping in front. It's those little things. It's the details. I think that again, coaches, that's what they do. They talk about details. 6 inches one way versus 6 inches another, could be the difference between winning and losing in this league. It's that fine sometimes. So it's being able to get the players, to understand that those 6 inches matter.